Pheroze Norwojee, Senior Counsel, by Gitobu Imanyara'S. I do not mourn Pheroze Norwojee as a colleague, though he was that. I mourn him as an elder brother in the struggle, a teacher, a mentor, and as a fellow traveler in the long, hard journey toward a just and democratic Kenya. His passing is not just personal. It feels like the slow closing of a chapter we began writing together and forged in defiance. Lit by principle and sustained by stubborn hope in this country's better self. There was a certain stillness about Pheroze. He did not speak to fill rooms. He spoke only when there was something worth saying. And when he did, his words always carried weight. Not the weight of grandstanding or spectacle, but the quieter authority of someone who knew deeply what he stood for and what he would never stand for. We first found each other not in a boardroom or courtroom, but on the front lines of dissent. The 1980s and the 1990s were not safe decades for people who believed in constitutionalism, but they were clarifying times. Those of us who dared speak against detention without trial, torture, censorship, and one-party rule were marked men. Pheroze never flinched. He stood firm in the face of that repression, not because he courted danger, but because his moral compass simply would not allow him to look away. There is a reason he was the advocate of choice for political prisoners. He defended the voiceless without a press conference, without fanfare. I saw him take on cases no one else would touch. I saw him sit with families in grief and rage and listen, truly listen, as though the whole system hadn't conspired to deafen itself to their pain. I saw him use the law not as a shield for the powerful, but as a sword for the powerless. Pheroze understood that the courtroom was never neutral ground, that to practice law in a country gripped by authoritarianism was in itself a political act, but he was not just a rebel without a file. With a file, he was a jurist of meticulous precision. He knew the Constitution, line by line. He understood precedent better than most judges. Above all, he understood justice, not as abstraction, but as a living thing that either uplifts the people or abandons them. When he published Practicing an Honorable Profession, it was a moment of quiet triumph. That book was not just reflection on law, it was a reckoning with history. In dedicating it to me, to my wife, Florence, and to our two sons, Marangu and Motuma, myself. In addition to his family, Pheroze gave us a gift that words failed to fully capture. The dedication was more than a gesture of friendship. It was an affirmation of solidarity forged through fire, and it said, we walked together, and we did not turn back. Florence and I received that dedication with full hearts. We remembered the detentions, the court battles, the whispered meetings, and the police raids. We remembered what it cost, not just for us, but our families. And in that moment, we felt seen. Pheroze had a rare kind of memory, one that honored just names, but sacrifices. He wrote often of those who had been erased from the nation's story. Mau Mau veterans denied dignity. Second liberation heroes detained and tortured. Ordinary citizens silenced by impunity. His writing was not performative nostalgia. It was political resurrection. He insisted that we remember because forgetting would be a second injustice. To the legal profession, let this be a moment of reflection. Pheroze practiced law with a discipline that is vast vanishing. He did not hustle for brief mentions on primetime news. He did not trade ethics for influence. He refused to water down his values, even when it was inconvenient, even when it cost him. He believed that to stand before a judge was to be accountable, not just to the court, but to the people on whose behalf you speak. That is what it means to practice an honorable profession. To his family, I offer the deepest gratitude. You gave Kenya a lion of conscience. We know what it means to carry the quiet burden of sharing someone with the nation. We know the long nights, the public pressures, the silences. But you stood with him, and in doing so, you stood with all of us. As we lay him to rest, we are not burying a man. We are planting a legacy. His words, his example, his integrity will live on in our courts, our classrooms, our movements. Kenya is freer because Pheroze Norwojee lived. Let us never forget it. Farewell, my brother. Yours was a life of honor, purpose, grace. Walk on in power. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baranga and Gitobu Imanyara. Please give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.